We are starting to see what the race for governor could look like in Iowa. State Auditor Democrat Rob Sand announced his campaign this morning.
And hours later, we learned Republican Congressman Randy Feenstra filed his paperwork to run. KCCI chief political reporter Amanda Rooker is following both of these developments.
All right, Amanda, let's start with Rob Sand, who you sat down with before he made his big announcement.
Yeah, there had been a lot of talk about Rob Sand, a lot of people expecting him to launch a campaign. Now it's official. Now, Sand has been Iowa's auditor since 2018, and he's originally from Decorah, but he spent most of his professional life in Des Moines. Now he's hoping to be the Democrat to take back the governor's seat when Governor Kim Reynolds leaves office next year. He's campaigning on lowering costs, improving education, and being a leader for all.
The bottom line, I think, is we need to get back to public service over partisanship and over politics.
Iowa's only statewide elected Democrat auditor, Rob Sand, is now officially running for governor.
I'd listen to everyone. I'd want to bring people together. I want us to solve our problems together.
It's been more than a decade since a Democrat has led Iowa, but Sand says he's confident he can change that by winning over voters across party lines.
Iowa swung more right in the last November election. So what are you going to do to talk to Republicans, people who voted for Trump in the last election, to vote for Rob Sand for governor?
Yeah, same thing I've been doing, which has been successful. The Iowans that we're talking about have voted for Donald Trump, then me, then Donald Trump, then me, then Donald Trump. I think they'll vote for me again. They know me. I don't want to be a party leader. I want to be a public servant.
But experts say Sand still faces an uphill battle.
Democrats have got an awful lot of work to do.
Political analyst Dennis Goldford says right now there are more registered Republicans and independents in Iowa than Democrats. But Goldford says the wide open race is a rare opportunity for Rob Sand.
It's easier to run against another challenger as opposed to running against an incumbent. And of course, with Governor Reynolds not running for re-election, the Republican seat is wide open.
Congressman Randy Feenstra filed paperwork to run for governor Monday afternoon. Feenstra's represented Iowa's 4th district, the historically conservative northwest corner of the state, in Congress since 2020.
I work every day to deliver results.
Eastern Iowa pastor and former state representative Brad Sherman is the only Republican officially in the race for governor. Others exploring a run include Attorney General Brenna Bird, Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig, House Speaker Pat Grassley, State Senator Mike Busolo, and State Representative Bobby Kaufman.
Could potentially be a crowded field. Amanda, Feenstra represents a large part of the state, but some Iowans may not be familiar with his politics. Or what kind of policies has he supported in Congress?
Sure. So I've been covering him during his kind of 3 terms in Congress. He is very socially conservative. He's supported things like restrictions to abortion access. He often talks about his faith. In this last election, his top issues were what we saw from a lot of Republicans, from Donald Trump: border security, illegal immigration, the economy, advocating for cuts to government spending. He is in his 3rd term in Congress. He unseated longtime U.S. Representative Steve King in a Republican primary in 2020, and Feenstra went on to win re-election in 2022 and again in 2024.
All right, so we know Rob Sand, the auditor. Today, really his first opportunity to kind of talk to Iowans as Rob Sand, the candidate for governor. How is he doing that?
Right. And what I think is really interesting, Ben, is a lot of people hear him as Iowa's only statewide elected Democrat, right? But he's really trying to distance himself from these party categories. He even told me, I don't necessarily fit as a Republican or a Democrat. I hunt, I fish, my faith is important to me, I own guns. I am not this typical establishment Democrat. And he even said that in these statewide elections, there have been people who voted for both Donald Trump and Rob Sand. Of course, that's as auditor. It's a different maybe game when you're running for governor. And already you see the Republican Party leaders trying to paint him as a radical leftist. So it'll be interesting to see as this campaign goes on how he's really defined as a candidate.
And it is game on. Now, Amanda, thank you.